Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
Thanks for joining us yet again for another episode. We've been doing this for a while now, and I guess we're really getting into the swing of things. I'm feeling pretty comfortable doing it these days, I think, actually.
Me too.
I'm glad.
And now here we are at episode 12.
So, how are things?
Things are, good. I know we're mainly a nerd-y, geeky sort of podcast, but really I think we ought to take a second. With all the stuff that's happened this week, it's kind of hard for me to complain about anything.
I suppose you're right. All things considered, we have things pretty good, don't you think?
I would like to say so.
To be able to have the ability to sit here and talk to you guys about things that, quite frankly, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter. It's kind of a luxury.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we have that ability. That having been said, yeah, we're usually a lighthearted podcast, but we really can't ignore that some really terrible things and some really sad things have in fact happened this past week. And I think we don't want to sit on this idea for too terribly long or anything, and we don't want to bring you down.
No, of course not.
But we do want to say that we hope that everyone that we reach out to is safe, that everyone has loved ones that are okay. We're thinking about you, we're praying for you. This goes out to anyone either in the Boston area or
up in West, right outside Waco.
In West, the city of West,
yes.
Texas. All these things are just one right after the other, kind of rapid fire,
yeah,
hurtful things on our hearts. And again, we just hope that everyone is well. If there is anything that we can do, any sort of outreach that we could do for anyone who's listening, we'd be more than happy to.
Promote that sort of thing. For those of you guys that do know, for what it's worth, Red Cross, I believe it's .org. Go there. There's plenty of things that people can do to help. Also, donating to your local blood bank would be very helpful to a lot of these people.
It sounds like plasma centers in our own area are like real hard up for plasma at the moment. So I can imagine in these areas, your donation of blood and or plasma would be greatly appreciated.
I know fairly soon I'm probably going to donate.
That's really all we wanted to say on that subject matter, and I do apologize if that brings the tone of the program down a bit, but we felt like it was important to address.
Yes.
So we thank you for listening to us speak on the matter for that brief amount of time. Other than that, of course, we have other perfectly good things to be talking about.
Yeah, we got a pretty full show for you guys tonight.
I wanted to talk here in a little bit about something that's near and dear to my heart, The Last Unicorn, which is going on tour starting, as tomorrow after... Of course, this is pre-recorded, so when this goes up, it will be tomorrow, but then the 20th.
April 9th.
The 20th.
20th, yeah. And I'm going to be putting my 2 cents in on Warner Brothers' new take on Superman, Man of Steel.
And together we're going to be addressing some things regarding the most recent Dragon Ball Z movie, Battle of the Gods, regarding how well it's doing in the box office, and touch a little bit on just how big of a deal Dragon Ball Z really has been over the years.
Yeah. Before we get into things, we had kind of a follow-up. We were actually sent something over Twitter, and we'll just talk about this for a second, that
this is on AnimeNewsNetwork.com that's sourcing this information?
Yes. I wasn't aware of this until just a few days ago when this was linked to us, but apparently the Sci-Fi Network is looking to start a reality show based around cosplayers. And, how they go to comic book conventions and try to compete for the best cosplay prize and win the cash prize. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this is a good idea. This is a good. This is gonna paint cosplay great.
That makes me rather nervous because I mean, let's face it, no matter how hard we might like to try and think that, oh, maybe they'll actually paint us in a good light, like we're not all crazies.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is that no matter what kind of reality show you have, the reality is that at some point, all of us, no matter what your occupation, has a not so great side. And generally when you're watching TV, that's the kind of stuff they like to promote because it gets ratings.
Well, and yeah, it's not exactly difficult to, even if your vice is relatively minor, TV can twist it into something that makes you look like you're the craziest of the freaks, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a large animated DVD collection and a very substantial amount of video games. And I own video game consoles left and right. Truth be told, I really haven't played a lot of video games in quite a bit because I've had a number of other planning things on my plate.
Well, yeah, and same here with me in cosplay. I've been cosplaying since 2003, and been attending conventions. I'd say no less than 2-3 times a year, max. Like that one year was 5. I don't even know how I pulled that off.
Yeah, I did 5 or 6, between 5 and 7 in 1 year, in my most hardcore year.
Right, and the thing about it is, over the years you get to watch how some of the stuff unfolds, whether or not you compete or have friends who compete, in masquerades or cosplay contests. And yeah, it can get kind of catty, to say the least. It can get to be quite the big popularity contest.
This is why forums such as CGL exist on 4chan.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for nothing but to perpetuate drama within the community.
Basically,
I
don't want to go off on this too long, but basically, I would only go so far as to say, the little stuff like seeing cosplayers in commercials here and there for like Cartoon Network, or heck, even on BBC America with the Nerdist, now that they've got their show. I think that's as much as we need right now. I mean, let's keep the focus on the costumes, is really what I'm trying to say.
Well, let's face it, even when G4 was still kinda sort of doing what it said that it was doing, which was speaking to nerd interests, supposedly, even I always felt like Attack of the Show, even though it said it was trying to reach out to nerds, they would, bash in their own nerddom.
Well, no,
and people would take it because G4 was the only channel that was providing anything of that kind of content.
Right. So, I remember in specific, they had I believe it was G4 that had an interview with a particular cosplayer, and said cosplayer had quite the repertoire of costumes to pick from to wear to this interview. But they asked that they specifically, and this was a female, I should point that out.
I remember this one in specific.
Yeah, they asked her specifically to wear one of her more revealing costumes.
One of her more ludicrous-looking ones, of course.
And it kind of, the questions that they asked kind of skewed more towards to make you look...
Well, I remember the specific topic, that it was a specific debate question, and it was... well, actually, I might be thinking of it wrong, because they did 2 similar topics. One was, does anime suck?
And that's a loaded question in and of itself.
That is so... Especially the way the question is presented. Because it's already got the spin on it.
Yeah,
the spin on it is already... We are... it's not like innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
That is the way that TV likes to paint it. And I remember somebody from Anime News Network was on one side of the debate, and maybe the cosplay chick was actually in on that question, and then there was some other person. I think it might have been 3 people, if I'm remembering this correctly. But it's no matter what you do, cosplayers are almost always portrayed poorly on television.
Right. I mean, some of my good friends are very well, I guess you could say, well-known cosplayers, and for that idea to be out there that you could, basically tarnish a community of people who really do have a love for this costume and have been working on their craft for years and years, and take the focus away from, hey, look at this cool thing, to, hey, look how weird and crazy these people are, huh? if only for the ratings. I mean, that lessens the craft.
I mean, if you think about it, that craft can be utilized for things more than just wacky fandom.
Oh,
like,
no.
You could use it. You could take legit jobs with costuming.
Oh, very much so. In Hollywood or Disney, things like that.
Yeah, get down into the nitty-gritty of real entertainment, and it can be used for other things, and I don't think television would directly approach that.
I don't think so either.
Aside from that, though, bringing up the topics that we spoke of at the top of the show, again, we're looking at the start of the Last Unicorn tour. And this is kind of special to me. This was brought to my attention just the other day on Twitter, too. There's a website, lastunicorntour.com. If you go there, you can look up dates and locations for where this tour is going to hit. And it's special because the print has been upgraded to 2K digital.
Nice.
I mean, it's no 4K, but this is 1982 animated The Last Unicorn. This is some
there's
old
only so
stuff.
much you can do.
In fact, the DVD copy I have, they did a really bad job over the years of transferring this from VHS, from film and VHS to DVD. It's like they took a VHS copy and then didn't do any sort of cleaning up. You can still see some tracking up at the top, and you still hear this warble in some of the audio. It was, really bad. So I'm hoping that this looks just gorgeous in comparison. And aside from it being 2K digital, the author of the original novel and the playwright for the movie, Peter S. Beagle, is traveling along this tour.
And it says he's going to be present at every screening.
Yeah, he is going to each one of these individually, because it's not just it's opening all across the country. No, it's moving from city to city.
Yes.
Luckily enough, it's actually going to be here in San Antonio, where we can see it basically just up the road from us.
Right.
That's really fortunate. Though I've actually seen Peter S. Beagle before. He was at A-Kon, I want to say 2007. In fact, that was my footage of him that I used in my very first review of The Last Unicorn.
So this has got some weight for you.
Yeah, this movie, this is the reason why I got onto thatguywiththeglasses.com at all, was thanks to a review of this movie, which I specifically chose because, one, Doug was looking for ladies to review lady-type material at the time, and two, I just, it was one of the first VHS tapes I can remember that my parents rented for me when I was a kid, and one of the first things that, I didn't realize it had any Japanese roots in it at the time. I really didn't care. It was just it's a cartoon, and it's fantasy.
How old were you when you first saw it?
3 or 4. I was young.
That's pretty young.
Now, of course, it came out in 1982, and I wasn't born until 1986, but, it was still, it hadn't been out all that long, and it was just one of those couple of different things. It was like that, and that anime version of, The Little Mermaid. I don't know if you... Okay, your face tells me that you don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's way more accurate to Hans Christian Andersen's original story than Disney's version is, so you'll have to look that up sometime.
So the crab didn't sing?
I don't even think there's a crab.
You lie.
Well, we'll hunt down a copy of this for you at some point. In any case...
to Barnes & Nobles.
This is historically... in my life, something quite important to me, as well as being the original contributing factor to my larger notoriety on the internet, because prior to this I was just filming conventions, hence why I have footage of Peter S. Beagle at A-Kon. And at the time, I'm assuming that things have now changed now that he's touring with the movie. But I remember at the time, he was on this big campaign, basically, because even up until that point, he had never seen a cent of earnings from The Last Unicorn. And he was on some big pitch to get his earnings that he had been so due for, like, 20 years, just about. Yeah, absolutely. You know, he was there for book signings and everything, and people loved him, and, like, nobody knew. Like, they all associated his name with his movie and his book.
It's there pretty big,
yeah.
You know?
And I can't remember exactly what the rights issue was, but, yeah, he got gypped out of what he deserved. So now I think things have been straightened out, and thus he's touring with this tour, obviously. It's just so cool, because, like I mentioned before, at the time, when I was a kid, I just didn't realize it had Japanese roots in any variety. It was this interesting combination work between Americans and the Japanese. In fact, the studio, the animation studio, Topcraft, they went on to...
Well, I've never heard of Topcraft. Who is...
Well, the studio, long story short, basically morphed into Studio Ghibli.
Oh!
It was bought by Hayao Miyazaki. You know, they ended up doing Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, just tons of other little things that I recognize here and there. Lensman, Macross, Do You Remember Love?
Do You Remember Love?
Hey, that song is really awesome.
Just, I don't care for Min-Mei.
Well, she's the one that sings it.
But I still don't care for Min-Mei.
Well, nobody does. She's a bimbo.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Just making sure we're clear on that.
And just making sure we're clear, Topcraft became Studio Ghibli, and they're really cool. So
well, of course.
So this animation style, you know, is this interesting sort of blend between... Because now I see it, clear as day. It looks like anime, but flows like Western animation.
Well, the thing is, in its release over here, you know, like so many other, I guess, Ghibli works, it was dubbed over.
Well, no, it wasn't even ever a Japanese dub. There was never a Japanese dub. There might be a Japanese dub now, but no, this was Americans contracting a Japanese animation studio to animate this work.
I see.
This is an American story by an American.
Gotcha. See, I'll admit right now, you watched this growing up. I was busy watching, you know, like an American Tale, you know, at 4 years old.
I was watching it too.
Yeah, but I didn't see this.
Everybody listening to me knows that I was watching that too.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, I had never heard of Last Unicorn until you started, you know, doing the review and filming that a couple of years ago.
Oh, more than a couple by now.
Well, yeah, but it's like, well, even this cast, because you just showed me before we started filming the commercial for this movie, and it's very
Mia Farrow, Alan Arkin, Jeff Bridges, Angela Lansbury.
So the mother of Satan's baby, Peavy from The Rocketeer, and the dude.
It's very, like, I have 2 videos relating to this on my YouTube channel now. You know, I have my original review, which, you know, now I can add more detail. Like, I didn't mention in the review that Topcraft was the animation studio.
Right.
Or, I also, at the time, couldn't think of any other songs that the band America had done.
See, that I got on your case for. I mean, come on, Horse with No Name.
Yeah, you and everyone else. Actually, I got on my own case, too, in the second video I did where I did commentary on top of that review, and I was like, come on, Kaylin, you know exactly what else they've done. Don't be stupid.
Ventura Highway? I mean...
But...
America.
America. But it's really, aside from a couple of not-so-great songs, it's a really good story. It really is. And this could be your opportunity to, at the very least, if you don't talk to Peter S. Beagle yourself, it could be your chance to see a really good movie and see it at its best quality. Looks like they're starting their first show. This may be too late for you guys, some of you guys, but on the 20th they're starting in San Francisco.
Well, what are some of the the states that they're visiting.
They're hitting up Texas, Missouri, Colorado. Eventually they're gonna go to Canada, and I think they said they'll be going to Europe eventually, but
So that's quite a big tour then.
It will be, but apparently you have to also recommend that this tour go to different places. Like, if you can get your local theater to be like, hey, that would be a great idea, then they can start speaking to one another. Obviously, the Alamo Drafthouse, it really just looks like Alamo Drafthouses around the country that he's hitting.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then that would make sense.
So they're going to Austin, 2 different Austin places, 3 different Austin places, Houston, here in San Antonio, Kansas City, and Littleton, Colorado.
So if you guys are anywhere around those areas, go ahead and check out the website. See if you can go ahead and track down tickets.
If it's not coming to your area, it does say that there are different ways you can get in contact with people and see if it can get shown somewhere near you. So definitely go to lastunicorntour.com. Visit if you're nearby, or look up ways that you can help, or get the tour somewhere near you.
Yeah, bring a friend. Catch a show. Do a thing.
Get a DVD autographed. Ooh, maybe I'll bring my comic? Because somebody
Yeah, that's right, you got that real nice comic.
Yeah, somebody sent it to me once, like, did you know that there's a comic version of it? And I was like, no. And then they sent it to me, and it was like, this is amazing. It looks just like the movie.
Yeah, so you should definitely go and get that signed.
Yeah, perhaps I will.
Cool.
What are you going to talk about, Josh?
Well, what am I going to talk about?
I don't know.
Well,
I see a baby.
That's not just any baby. It's Kal-El. You know who Kal-El is?
Why don't you enlighten me?
He's what? I don't get to finish that. No, for most of you who, peruse the internet, by now, most people have seen, according to YouTube, at least 10 million people have seen this most recent trailer for Man of Steel, Warner Brothers' new take on Superman. Now, granted, the movie hasn't come out yet. News about this has been out for a while, but I was waiting till enough information got out there before I decided to go ahead and start talking about it. And with this latest trailer giving a little bit more footage and stuff to work off, I think now's a good time to start talking.
So start talking.
Okay, well, first and foremost, like a lot of fans out there, I'll start by saying that I am a fan of Superman. Nowadays, it's not necessarily the cool thing to like Superman. There's this bum rap of, oh, he's a Boy Scout, nobody can relate to him. And that kind of rhetoric is what, in my opinion, messed up Superman Returns so much, aside from all the other problems that movie had.
Which it had a lot.
Which it had a lot, of course. There's any number of other people with opinions and reviews about that, that you can go look up.
In fact, I believe Sci-Fi Guy did a review himself and pointed out quite a number of things wrong with it.
Yeah, I remember you showed me that particular review, and I stood up and clapped in the apartment because he was talking to me on that. Because just in general, people saying you can't relate to Superman, and yeah, you see it watching Superman Returns. Okay, it's the 2000s. We gotta update Superman, make him more relatable. So what do? They make him an absentee father. Yeah, that's
good
really
job.
Good job, right? And it's like, no, okay, Brandon Routh, I actually think he did a very good portrayal of both Clark Kent and Superman. The problem was the script was crap.
Among other things.
Among other things, as far as that goes. So now here we are in 2013, and we're getting this new take on it from Zack Snyder, the guy who brought you Watchmen and 300, as the trailer will of course tell you.
Yeah, it leaves out the part where he did Sucker Punch, right?
Yes, and thankfully, because Sucker Punch, that was... Oh, I don't want to
See,
think
here's
about
the
Sucker
thing.
Punch.
Okay, did Zack Snyder... Did he write this?
write this movie?
Yes.
No. David S. Goyer helped write, who did a lot of the writing for the Dark Knight trilogy.
Okay, because pretty much I think Zack Snyder's failing is anything he himself wrote.
Well, no. From what we know for certain, you watch 300, you watch Watchmen, and even to a certain extent Sucker Punch, you know this guy knows how to do spectacle. And what they're showing here in this newest trailer is spectacle. We're finally getting the stuff that they hadn't shown in these last two really, tight-knit trailers of, voiceovers from Kevin Costner and Russell Crowe playing both of Superman's respective fathers, saying, how this young man's gonna raise up and become this hero. And now, we can see him doing a thing, more flying, use of super strength, speed, things like that.
I would almost be more inclined to say I'd be more interested in seeing Zack Snyder do a movie adaptation version of some story that already exists about Superman. And I say that because his adaptations of previous comics and graphic novels are just splendid and nearly spot on.
I would agree with that. I would.
However, then, venturing forth into writing your own thing or doing a different interpretation gets into murky water.
And I think that's kind of what we have here, because, granted, most people are impressed, and visually, this trailer is impressive. Let's not take that away from it. Because, it starts off with apparently a war on Krypton, and then, Jor-El, Superman's father, putting him in the capsule to send him to Earth. Then we have him on Earth, saving a couple of people, making his way around the world, and things like that. And then eventually he'll become Superman. One of the things that I'm worried about, though, and this is something I, of course, will credit, I think I already said, Brandon Routh with doing, is that he had an excellent portrayal of Clark Kent. Granted, it was based quite a bit in Christopher Reeve's performance, as the character, but it was still somewhat believable. Here, in this trailer, what has me very concerned, actually, is that you see this whole trailer, you see Clark Kent walking around, muscles showing, big ol' scruffy beard. Well, at least, he hasn't shaved in a couple of days.
It's almost a completely different dude.
Right, exactly. Like, this isn't the guy I know from the comics. And again, going into the whole thing about interpretation. And from what I've been reading, you can go to... A lot of this stuff is available on superherohype.com. What they're kind of coming from with is this aspect of this is kind of first contact of, mankind with, an alien race of some form. So they're trying to steep this in reality to a certain extent. And you have to keep that in mind. It's to a certain extent. Because when we get down to it...
Because who cares? He's a friggin' alien.
Yeah, what are we talking...
Lift buses.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're basing this in realism. This idea of this guy who has super speed, heat vision... Flight. And, okay, I'll talk about that for a second. Like, the costume, alright? Like,
we've heard this, though. I mean,
well,
where's the underwear? Now, isn't that a stupid thing to be arguing
about? Well, yeah,
about?
that's exactly what I was going to bring up. If we're trying to talk realism here, why do I need to rationalize why this guy who can fly, bend steel bars, leap tall buildings in a single bound, why do I have to justify whether or not he's wearing his underwear outside his pants? Because you go one of two ways on that. One, that's not realistic. Of course it's not realistic. It's a freaking comic book. And two, even if he was wearing his underwear outside his pants, are you gonna tell him he looks stupid?
He could burn you to death with his laser eyes.
Well, heat vision, but yeah, exactly.
Laser eyes.
And I get that the design is based off, this latest DC look, the New 52, and I don't hate it. I don't.
I don't like it.
I will say as much as, can we get one...
There's a stupid belt thing going on.
Well, it's like, if you weren't going to let him have the underwear on with the belt, then why even put this little tiny oval there? Like, at least the New 52 costume...
What's this ribbing around his hips? What is that? I mean...
Well, really, if I'm understanding correctly, if you look at the pictures that have been available, he is in a Kryptonian dress here, but what you're really looking at is their long johns, basically, because they've got clothing that they wear. Yeah, you can see Russell Crowe
So he is
wearing
underwear.
Yeah, he's pretty much wearing underwear, so why are we complaining that, hey, this guy looks like he's wearing his underwear outside? 'Cause he is! 'Cause that's all he had left. And again, who are you to tell him anything? He's freaking Superman. But, getting back to my point, I digress. From these trailers, we see this guy flying around, facing off against the U.S. military, fighting General Zod, who's going to be played by Michael Shannon, very good actor. But in all of this, I don't see the Clark Kent I know, the guy that you can write term papers about. This idea of a guy who is aware of the power that he has, but he hides it, under this visage of a guy who's unassuming, wears glasses, doesn't speak up too much. It's kind of, really, I think about that speech that David Carradine gives in Kill Bill Volume 2 about, how Superman, is Superman all the time. But still, Clark Kent is a very important aspect of this character. How do you hide this immense power that you have and not let anybody recognize you? And yeah, there's that classic argument, the glasses, anybody with half a brain would be able to tell he's Superman. Look at the glasses. I mean, they even made fun of that in Superman Returns. And there's been some argument that, well, maybe they're not going to do that. That they're not going to have Clark Kent, even though in some leaked Comic-Con footage, there is a shot of him, from the back, putting on a blazer and then putting on a pair of glasses. So he's in there somewhere, but I still want to see how they're going to handle it.
Well, do you think... certainly they've, for a very long time, kept quite a bit of this movie under wraps.
Yes, and I will give them credit. They've been, up until now, since we're only 2 months out from release, they've been very... they've kept the lid pretty tight on this. So, kudos to them for that.
So there could be quite a bit of room, because I still don't fully understand what kind of a story they're trying to tell.
Well,
I only understand a little bit of, he's an alien, people won't understand him, and I can't really tell anything else aside from that other than I see flight and explosions.
Well, yeah, at the very least we get, okay, Zod somehow escaped Krypton, and he's gonna try and enslave Earth or some crud like that. I mean,
we know what's up with Zod.
Yeah, we know what's up with Zod. They did say for certain that there will not be any kneel before Zod in this movie.
Aww.
No, I understand it. They also decided to shy away from the John Williams theme.
Well, yeah, because this is visually an entirely different sort of piece.
Yes, and we get a little snippet here in this new trailer of what I'm assuming the new Superman suite will sound like, and it sounds pretty heroic, pretty, uplifting, and I'm okay with that. They've made a lot of interesting choices. You've got Amy Adams playing Lois Lane here, who, it's the first time, really, that we've ever had a redhead Lois, but, she's a very capable actress. I think she'll be able to pull it off. Really... The thing, again, that bothers me from this trailer is she's there looking him right in the face, and just going off this trailer, it seems like she'll meet Superman before she meets Clark. And usually the story's the other way around. She always meets Clark first before she meets Superman.
Well, yeah, because they would both work at the Daily Planet.
Exactly. So here it's a question of, yeah, I can kind of get you met the guy with the glasses and you're not really looking straight at him, and then you meet Superman. So here, if you meet Superman first, if you're Clark, wouldn't you have to try doubly hard not to be noticed?
Well, they could play it like when she recognizes Clark sometime in the future after that, then maybe she'll be like, oh, it's him, and then she's totally in love with him, and then she's like, I'm gonna keep your secret.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time they've played that up. I mean, that I'm pretty sure that's how they did it in Smallville. then again, I didn't finish watching all that much of Smallville because, well, WB, CW, mishandling, things like that. But I'm fairly sure that this movie will deliver on some levels. Like I said, spectacle looks like it's gonna meet up. I can live with the costume. Again, my biggest concern is Clark. Now, just to get into this for just a minute, there's been enough talk going around that depending on how well this movie does, will decide whether or not DC goes ahead with their plans for Justice League. And with that on its shoulders, this movie has a lot of weight on it. You know, how it's going to do in the box office. I mean, is it going to make money? Of course. But will it be enough to launch this next giant superhero team-up movie?
Well, all things considered, despite how iconic Batman also is as a, not only a comic book hero, but now a movie hero.
Movie franchise, yes.
Movie franchise. Really, without a good, hardcore, modern interpretation of Superman, there really can't be a Justice League movie, I would think.
Well, no, and the thing about it is, really, if I was, the people over at WB, if I was the people working with them at DC Comics, scale back is what I would say, because we know
or else, where else do you go in a Justice League movie?
Well, because you think about it here, it is no secret. You look at the timing. Even I remember nerds were calling it. Kevin Smith freaking called it. He said in a podcast right after the Avengers came out, you just watch, this movie, made $500 million in like 2 weeks or however long it took. You just watch, within a week or two, WB's going to announce, hey, Justice League, and lo and behold, what happened? They're like, hey, we're working on Justice League, and it's not going to measure up, because they didn't have a plan. Marvel had this plan from back starting with Iron Man, going through the Avengers of, hey, we're going to methodically go piece by piece, character by character, set up this world, and yeah, we got the big payoff after so many years, whereas here, it is so obviously a rush job to try and match that.
Well, I dare say that Marvel and DC both have their strengths and weaknesses as far as presentation outside of their comic medium is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I personally believe that even despite recent decisions, DC is the stronger in as far as animation is concerned.
I would say so, yeah.
Whereas Marvel, they have cartoons, and they're cartoons,
Well, they've got some good ones. It's just they don't always stay on the air all that long.
No, typically not. And, I think some of their stronger ones, being the old X-Men animated series, and then, well, really, quite frankly, anything ever X-Men interpreted was pretty good.
Well, that was almost, directly taken off the pages of the comics.
Yeah. There was that Iron Man series for a bit.
Each one had their merits, but for the most part, it wasn't nearly as accurate as X-Men was. But
we had a couple of different Spider-Man animated series, and the one from the early to mid '90s, Spider-Man. That one drove me nuts every so often, but was cool.
It was cool, but it wasn't necessarily accurate.
One, it wasn't accurate. Two, I always adored DC's animation as a whole, whereas a lot of Marvel's, animation style, just kind of fell flat.
Well,
it was very flatly colored.
Yes.
Was very stiff animation and stiff character designs.
Well, I'll put it this way. Even then, with Marvel's stable of characters and DC's stable of characters, Marvel has done a good job of getting names out there, letting you learn who Thor was, who Iron Man is. These characters that a lot of people in the mass public didn't know about. DC and WB haven't laid the groundwork to do that outside of animation. There's no, outside of the DC Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, heck, we're still waiting for any sort of Wonder Woman movie to be worked on. I mean, there's the rumor of a CW series on that. And there was the failed NBC pilot. But see, here's the thing. You can't launch a movie about characters nobody's going to care about.
What about Green Arrow?
Shut up about Green Arrow.
You don't like Green Arrow?
It's not that I don't like Green Arrow. I just don't like how to me, it feels like they're forcing Green Arrow down our throats. He's not he's no Hawkeye. I'll put it that way. But, pretty much to put a lid on this, I am looking forward to this. I'll probably blog about it, once the movie comes out. You better show me some Clark Kent within the next 2 months so I can feel better about it. But bottom line, it still has my money.
Good job. You're such a sucker.
And how? Speaking of money.
You want to talk about some Dragon Ball Z? Yeah! Last time there were some other TV episodes, and there's some movies, and they always been around for a while. And, it's over.
Okay, so a lot of people were very happy to hear about this. Dragon Ball Z, after all these years, finally got a new piece of animation.
It looks so clean.
Oh, very clean. I mean, once, people saw how well Dragon Ball Z Kai was doing over there, and then they ported it over here on Nickelodeon, cleaned up and whatnot.
Parts of it, parts of it made me really excited, and parts of it made me really sad, because, had the whole thing been reanimated and remastered, that would have been friggin' awesome, but they only, retouched
certain scenes, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
But now we have this movie, Battle of the Gods, which was just recently released, and within 2 weeks over there has already made 2.2 billion yen, which translates to about,
Take 2 zeros off of it, add a little bit of money.
Give or take about $200 million, right?
Give me an estimate as to how well that would be.
That is nothing short of a smash.
Even here in the States?
Well, hold on. Hey, if I do the math, wait. Oh, 22 million. I forgot to carry the decimal over. Well, still, for them, their box office over there, take into account, Japan doesn't have nearly as many theaters as America does. Usually over here, if you're doing 20 million, you had a fairly good weekend. Anything above that is, gold. If you hit, the 40s and the 50s, you're a huge success. Anything above that, and then you're, in Harry Potter, Dark Knight territory.
On top of that, the way I understood things is, and this was when I was going to school in Japan, it was sort of understood that, movie theaters are a thing in Japan, but it's like you here would go out and see nice theater and spend quite a bit of money and plan on a real nice date night. That's kind of what movies are
over there
in Japan, because it's not as expensive as seeing, say, a stage performance, but it's pretty expensive even in comparison to ticket inflation prices over here. It's an expensive experience when you're just going to spend half that money probably on a DVD or Blu-ray release a little bit later anyway.
Well, the thing to take into account, bottom line, is this is currently the fastest grossing film of the year over there. And that's
pretty hardcore.
That is pretty hardcore considering, they still have, other movies to go up against. And, granted, the year's not done yet. There's still plenty of other movies to come out.
And in fact, I've been seeing they've been doing quite a bit of hardcore advertisement for Iron Man 3 in Japan. They seem just as excited as we are.
Well, yeah, they're starting to get more into the, the Hollywood sort of aesthetic over there. But
well, they like heroes of any variety just as much as we do.
But this, coming back to it, this is their hero. This is Goku. Goku has been a hero to them for how long now? Going on what?
gosh.
Are we talking like 25
or more years?
You know, people... And see, you know, thinking about the success of this over there, you know, it makes me want to reflect on, just in general, what Dragon Ball Z means to people, not just there, but over here in America. Because I remember a time, in my mind not too long ago, but you take it back, you know, the 90s, when I didn't know what Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z was. And I remember in specific, I went with my brother over to a friend's house to play, and his friend had Cartoon Network on, and it was right when... you know, Goku was fighting Vegeta, and, you know, it was that episode, you know, it's over 9,000, and I was like, what is this? I've never seen animation.
Well,
then I started watching.
There's this whole generation of people, perhaps our age or a hair younger than us, who they maybe saw anime before, but they didn't really realize, like, kind of what I mentioned about The Last Unicorn, right? Or about this movie that I brought up that you didn't know about, this Hans Christian Andersen anime, The Little Mermaid,
right.
Where I was just like, hey, cartoons are cartoons. You know, I think I thought that about Sailor Moon for a brief amount of time, even.
You knew there were certain shows that you watched growing up that were on, you know, TV over here, like Sailor Moon, Ronin Warriors, and maybe Samurai Pizza Cats. It's like...
Macross,
for
me, was one, too.
Well, Robotech, too. It's like...
Yeah, Robotech.
There's something a little different about these things. Voltron. And then, you know, Dragon Ball Z comes along.
And then that's when you decide to figure out what it all means.
Yeah.
You try and start putting it all together, and you're like, oh, this is its own genre. Or maybe not so much a genre, because a genre denotes an emotional sort of style.
But this is definitely its own thing.
Its own
style.
Categorization
okay.
of animation. And then you realize it's not American, it comes from someplace else, and then you want to go and you want to learn more, and there's just so much more than you even knew to Dragon Ball Z. But then you don't care, you want to keep watching Dragon Ball Z because it just keeps going, and it's like, oh, he just fought the most difficult thing to fight, it can't go anywhere from here. And then, boom, Cell happens.
I know.
What?
Like, I remember, and yeah, I'm getting, you know, my own sort of nostalgia on right now. I remember what it was like in those old days, and, you know, some people listening might not know what this was like, you know, to be there, for me, in 8th, 9th grade, and you go on these GeoCities sites, and you would download picture after picture.
Oh, man, old GeoCity and,
Angel Fire.
Homestead and Angel Fire Shrine. You remember anime shrines?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they specifically used the word shrine, and they were proud, and everyone's like, wow, your shrine is so cool. Yeah, I know, right? You want to sign my guest book?
Oh, yeah. And then...
You got the little counter down at the bottom.
Exactly.
You're visitor number 1032.
And there were all these stupid, crazy... fan theories about, oh, there's another series after GT. Yeah, he goes level 7 Super Saiyan and he fuses with everybody. And then he's like Super Saiyan, Piccolo, Gohan, Goku, Trunks, Vegeta, Bulma.
Bulma?
I don't know, they threw all the names together.
Chi-Chi.
Yeah, sure, Chi-Chi
Puar.
too. Puar. Mr. Popo.
Chaozu.
Yeah, exactly. I remember what it was like, because, yeah, I'll put that out there. My first... honest-to-goodness cosplay was the Great Saiyaman, and nobody knew who I was, save for, like, 8 people at my high school who knew and were watching Dragon Ball Z at the time, and I didn't care, you know? I knew who I was, and I knew there was only a handful of people who knew who I was, and now we look, and that was, you know, in the early 2000s, here we are 10 years later, you know, 10, 15 years later, and look how it's grown.
Well, it's become, like, a staple. Like, you see it and you're like, just through osmosis, you're like, yeah, that's Goku. Yeah, that's Piccolo. Yeah, that's Vegeta. Like, you just know.
Like, I know we not many people have this, but, you know, we can drive down, you know, streets here, even in San Antonio, and when us in specific, we can see a piñata at a piñata store, and you can tell that's Goku. It's come along.
It's a terrible bootleg Goku, but
Yeah,
you're
'cause
like,
all
we
piñatas-
know.
But you know, because you see the orange gi and the spiky hair, and you know, and that shows how far it's come. You know, in terms of acceptability, because I remember...
Which is really interesting, because if you think about it from the perspective of its root origin, Dragon Ball, and how it was supposed to be this comedic... Initially, it was just supposed to be a comedic retelling of Journey to the West. You know? And then it just became something so much more, even within Dragon Ball. It just went beyond the Journey of the West idea and then became its own thing. Then, even imagine past that, okay? After Dragon Ball ends, say you're a Japanese person, and you're like, oh, well, that was sure cool. And then Dragon Ball Z gets announced. And now Goku is an adult, he's married, he's got a kid, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, aliens!
Yeah.
Freaking aliens! And you're just like, what?
He's been an alien this whole time?
and then what we get in the States, like, Dragon Ball was around, but nobody gave a crap about Dragon Ball.
No.
They cared about Dragon Ball Z, and then all you really see is just all this fights and the flying fists and kicks up in the air, and then spirit bombs and kamehamehas and destructo discs
and dragon, rock the dragon, Dragon Ball.
And we add this rockin' soundtrack, and then in the movies you start adding songs by, like, Disturbed and...
I remember in specific, I think it was, what was it, History of Trunks, where they play Stupefied?
Yeah, they play Stupefied.
And that... Look in my face, they're in my soul, I begin to stupid... Wow, Trunks is so hardcore! And,
well,
you know, things like that.
I would really love to see a Japanese person watch our adaptation of their show for the first time, because it's the same thing, but it's like we took it to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Like, because their soundtrack is, you know, orchestra and trumpets and...
Well, to a certain extent, we kept a bit more of that over here in Dragon Ball Z Kai.
Well, yeah. That was basically the idea, to retain a certain element of what it was originally supposed to be, retain what it was supposed to be in its original manga format, for the most part. But then what we do is we rev up the music, we make it far more intense, we give Goku an actual man's voice.
Hey, say what you will, that lady is a hero over there.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing about Japanese voice acting. Once you are that character...
You are that character for life.
You are casted that character once, and nobody else will ever be that character unless you die.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's most of the time. Not every time, but most of the time, as far as beloved characters are concerned.
Right.
Shin-chan, for example, has been Shin-chan forever. And thus, so has Goku. But it's just kind of gotten to a point, and surely Funimation will be like, I'll take that movie, thank you, and they'll bring it over here. And...
I would hope at the least we get a theater release over here for that.
You think?
Well, I remember even over here we had, I don't know if it was Funimation that did it, but we had a showing over here of Trigun Badlands Rumble. We've had viewings of the Evangelion redo movies.
The redo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they were all Funimation, huh?
Well, they're all under that umbrella now, yeah.
Yeah, what I mean is that I'm pretty sure we got the permission from Funimation to have those show here in town.
And it's not like this movie is anything like, oh, did you go back to GT? No, we're going into that lost decade, as they refer to it, between the end of Goku dealing with Boo to the beginning of GT, but it's that prime Dragon Ball Z real estate of we've got everybody there, the way you remember them. You know, Super Strong Gohan and Kid Trunks and Goten and everybody's there.
But does Krillin have hair?
Yes.
Ugh.
Why you gotta knock on Krillin? He gets knocked on enough.
No, he's better without the hair. The hair looks stupid.
Well, he pretty much gave up the whole monk thing.
Yeah, but like
once he got a wife, he changed.
Yeah, I miss old Krillin.
Yeah, I understand. You miss the Chrome Dome.
I sure do. In any case, it's like Dragon Ball has become so big, even in the States. You know, it's so recognizable. They had to make a bad movie out of it. I mean, really.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? We'll just forget that evolution ever happened. I guess I'll put it that way. As far as Dragon Ball Z is concerned, I don't believe in evolution.
I think that's a good note to wrap things up on.
Yes. So, again, we're glad you guys stuck with us for tonight's episode.
Stuff happened.
Yeah, stuff. A lot of stuff.
Follow us on Twitter and junk, alright?
Yeah, Twitter.
Because, like,
we have the tweeters.
I'm at MarsGirlProd.
And I'm at Josh Knight first.
So, other than that, glad we had this talk.
Yeah, if you guys have any other news articles you want to send our way, go ahead and message us there, or even comment below here on the podcast.
Awesome. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Black Rims, and I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
And we'll be seeing you next time.